Someone told me recently that I was lucky to be able to plant in March. But what they didn't realize is that even heat-loving tomatoes have difficulty setting fruit when the Florida heat quickly rises above 85 degrees. So this growing season, I'm planting as early as possible and doing as much companion and intercropping as possible to get ahead of what I think will be a very hot summer. So the first thing I needed to do was finish getting my buckets ready after previously filling the bottoms with leaves. I could put in compost and then topsoil. And then plant some of my sweet potato slips. I'm only filling this bucket halfway to let the sweet potatoes set, and then come back and add more soil to make sure they're underground and well away from sunlight. Then on to planting bell peppers. I always encourage saving your seeds, and as you can see, I have plenty. Saving seeds lets them pass on information about the previous growing season. I'll come back later and add basil as the companion plant. All that remained was to move the buckets into the raised bed bucket stand in the backyard. The next day, I decided to move the strawberries from one of the long beds into a bucket because they require a slightly acid soil that I can control better in a bucket. I'm planting these a little close together in a deeper pot than necessary, as strawberries have shallow roots, but I just wanted to get them out of the long bed. I can move them again later. I love kale, so I planted some in the long bed near the sweet peas and onions. The sweet peas will fix the soil, and the onions will help with pests. Once the sweet peas die off, I'll replace another type of bean for soil fixing going into the summer. I've already planted my summer squash that are neatly hidden among the sweet peas. The same goes for cucumbers, also hidden among the sweet peas. Once the sweet peas die off, I'll put in pole beans to continue to fix the soil and trellis up just as the cucumbers begin to die out. But right now, I'm adding radishes that will be my deep root crop next to the shallow root cucumbers. The fast-growing radishes will also help provide some natural resistance to the cucumber beetle. A few days later, I happened to stop by my grocery store deli and learned something very important. It never hurts to ask. I asked the clerk if they gave away icing buckets. She said yes, and happily offered me two that she apologized had not been clean. Then she told me the best time to check back for more. Again, it never hurts to ask, because a few days later, another clerk, without checking, told me no, but I plan to keep on asking. Once I got the buckets home and checked them for cleaning, I learned that Sunny Girl loves icing. Half the cleaning process was stopping her becoming the canine cleaner. I washed them down, and then use Don to break up the icing chunks. In no time, I had 2 free 4-gallon buckets. And I came back and picked up the icing chunks to save the canine cleaner, who I'm sure would return once my back was turned. While I was also out and about, I ran into these blueberry bushes. Blueberries like being with different types of blueberries, which causes them to produce more fruit. They have an acid soil requirement, so I'm adding these O'Neill and Jersey bushes into the Brightwell container for now, so I won't have to do much to get them started. Evidently, the Jersey blueberry likes the environment, because a few days later, it began to flower. Oh yes, speaking of the color blue, my brother gave me this birdhouse for bluebirds. He swears by them for eating mosquitoes, slugs, and termites. I think I'm asking for trouble because they also like to eat, wait for it, blueberries. We'll see how things go because I don't have any renters just yet. With that done, it was on to planting my peanut seedlings. The plan is to get them settled and then add more soil and follow up with tomatoes and basil above ground. The peanuts should provide a nitrogen-rich environment for tomatoes. While I was at it, I also put a few collards in a pot near them. I'll come back later and add a few peanut seedlings for nitrogen fixing and a below-ground crop. Just a side note, I was surprised the alyssums in the background here made it through the winter and have begun to bloom. A happy accident for more pest control. This season, I plan to have flowers like daisies, zinnias, marigolds, and nasturtiums. I mentioned saving your seeds, and this is significant because I will never have to buy marigolds or zinnias again. I saved seeds and have loads of them for use in the garden this year. The nasturtiums will go in with the summer squash to fight the squash beetle. The marigolds I'm putting in smaller pots that I can move near the different beds. This way, as I succession plant, I can move them to where they're needed. And finally, I've decided to put the peach tree in a larger container to make room for more root growth. I put trees in pots because my subdivision does not have overhead wiring and everything is underground, so I have to be careful when digging. I made sure to put in plenty of drainage holes, running the drill backwards to avoid splitting. The trees in my backyard provide plenty of branches and leaves to use as organic matter, followed by compost and topsoil. I planted the peach tree in a little high, as things will settle to bring it flush with the top, but still having lots of room for root growth. And now the tree is ready to be pulled back to its home. I have a few more things to do, but all in all, I'm pretty set for in-ground planting. I guess a full garden tour will be coming up pretty soon. But for now, I'll just let nature take its course. See you next time.